AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Alldus podcast. I'm your host, Ben Sparks, and today we're continuing with our ServiceNow series, talking with some of the best and brightest leaders from across the ecosystem. Today we are lucky to host Jared Laethem, CEO and founder of an innovative organization called DotWalk. Jared started his career back in 2007. He worked directly for ServiceNow, and he stayed there for around about 10 years, just under 10 years, before starting his own venture in 2017, and that was DotWalk. I will let Jared talk more, as he can do a much better job of it than I can, but at a high level, DotWalk provide enterprise technology services for the ServiceNow platform with a focus on AI and automation. They're an exciting, growing organization, and I was kindly introduced to Jared by Robert the Duke, who runs a podcast that I've spoken about previously, The Titans of Now. I definitely recommend you give those guys a listen. Jared's also featured on there, and again, highly recommend you giving them a listen as he digs a little bit more into the technical side of AI ATF automation testing. On today's show, we'll be talking about a range of topics, but at a high level, we're going to touch on problems and solutions that DotWalk focus on for their customers, an overview of the ServiceNow platform, what's happening in the software as a service startup world, and a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts, which is mentorship and some learns that Jared has learned throughout the years on his journey. So Jared, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Ben. Glad to be here.
No worries. So Jared, it would be great if you can give our listeners an overview of your career so far.
Sure. So like you mentioned, I spent 10 years almost at ServiceNow, working there in a variety of roles. I could see ServiceNow go from about 50 employees to about 5,000 employees. So I really had the opportunity to kind of ride that rocket ship of very high growth startup to still very high growth but mature business, serving enterprise customers in the IT service management market. Prior to that, I ran my own business, and after that, I'm again running my own business. DotWalk is focused on providing automated testing solutions for the ServiceNow ecosystem.
Awesome. So looking into your organization, DotWalk, that you mentioned, could you give us an overview of like the history, how it came about? I'm sure our listeners will be very intrigued.
DotWalk was founded to really, tap into what was we viewed as a high growth opportunity to serve customers in the ServiceNow ecosystem. So we went in really with our eye on the business opportunity of providing solutions to that customer base, where because we could provide a solution that would integrate with everything they were already doing in ServiceNow, it was a kind of a opportunity to help out and find a niche and provide value-added services that leveraged our expertise with ServiceNow and our knowledge of that ecosystem and the customer base.
I know so many of our conversations are focused on customer value. What solutions does DotWalk kind of replace, if that's the right word? And what problems do you solve for your customers?
Absolutely. So what we do is automated testing. So ServiceNow customers have very large implementations of kind of customized applications for everything from IT service management, which is your ticketing and your configuration management databases and the like, everything from that to HR or facilities, and they customize these applications. And then occasionally ServiceNow ships them an update of the latest version of ServiceNow, and they have to keep everything working. So when they get that new version of ServiceNow, it's like they're going through kind of a mini brain surgery with that ServiceNow instance where they have to merge in all of their customizations and all of the latest and greatest from ServiceNow. And what they want is for everything to just keep working. So when their help desk goes on and uses ServiceNow, or when one of their, employees goes in looking to file a facilities ticket post upgrade, everything needs to keep working. It needs to behave the same way. If a ticket used to get routed to this group, it still needs to get routed to this group. If an integration fires off, it still needs to fire off. And so what DotWalk does is we provide a one-click solution for doing that regression testing. We just make sure that you still have that same before and after experience, and your customers have the same before and after experience on ServiceNow when they're going through upgrades or other changes on the ServiceNow platform. Primarily, we're displacing manual testing. So the way that people, for the most part, do this today is they click through the system and they look, and hopefully they've documented some of that of what it's supposed to be. But oftentimes they'll ask someone on the help desk, hey, does it still work? And they're just asking them to kind of go in and do the things they normally do in the system. What we do then instead is we use an AI-powered solution to generate automated tests. So this is essentially computer code that runs through, and we, with a single click, both discover all of the different scenarios for what your customers are doing on your ServiceNow instance, and then we document your test cases in a level of detail that a human would struggle to match what our AIs are able to do from the perspective of generating these tests and then being able to provide very broad and very deep coverage. So part of what we're doing there is testing, but a big part of it is we're really enabling the administrators of these ServiceNow instances to have a much better story to tell also when they go back to their stakeholders and they say, hey, we want to upgrade ServiceNow. And they start getting questions like, well, how do we know it's still going to work? They're able to, instead of just saying, well, we had some of your help desk users click through it and they didn't see anything. Instead, the story they're able to tell is, well, we ran 2,000 automated tests. And as you can see, they're all passing green. It represents about 30,000 assertions that were made about the behavior of the ServiceNow instance. And we feel very confident as a result, coming in with visuals. So we're not just, doing the actual testing. It's also a lot about communication and being able to have a better ability to articulate how risk is mitigated as you're going through this important change of a ServiceNow upgrade.
Awesome. And again, when we're looking at some of the other people we've had on the show, that kind of visibility piece and communication piece about what is happening is so key at the moment. And so I think that's awesome. And thanks for that high level overview. Jared, it's fair to say you've been around in the ecosystem for a while. What lessons have you learned about doing business in the ServiceNow ecosystem?
Yeah, about doing business in the ServiceNow ecosystem, I guess, the most important lesson that I've learned, I've had the opportunity to work with the customers of ServiceNow, which really is just to say I've had the opportunity to work with many different IT organizations across many enterprises and kind of understand what their needs are. And what they really need are solutions to problems that they have. They're very busy people, all the more so now. They don't need a vendor to come to them with a project. They need a vendor to come to them with a solution, something that's going to save them time, lower their costs, make it easier for them to do their job. And so, I think that's very true if you're trying to stand up a business in the ServiceNow ecosystem. It's growing very, very fast, right? So these folks have all kinds of demands for new functionality that they need to be rolling out for their business. That's their job. And you need to empower them with solutions that make it easier for them to do their job. So, in our case, we're trying to take something that, quite frankly, they probably, don't like doing, which is manual testing, take that off their plate so that they can then focus on doing what they do like doing and what their customers want them doing, which is rolling out new functionality for their stakeholders. What they really need is solutions that they can easily imagine kind of bringing in, and that they're going to make their lives easier, make their customers' experience better.
So taking a slightly different turn now, for our listeners that are not from a ServiceNow background, could you give them a quick overview of the platform and how you're seeing it evolve and why it's been so successful, competitors, etc.?
Sure. Yeah. So, the ServiceNow platform, everyone wants to be a platform company. I think there are a number of really great platform companies out there, but it's also hard to understand, how does this compare to what? So it's similar to a lot of IT service management software that came before it, in terms of needing to be something that's really enabling companies to easily customize the experience that they want as people are navigating through and trying to implement everything for their company. They need a very fast-paced development environment. So ServiceNow is doing low code, no code, which is really big in terms of VC funding right now, is low code, no code. They were doing this from the very beginning of the company, and thus going back about 15 years now, probably. They enable someone to, with very little software development experience, stand up an application that their users can use to do service requests, and they can write that application in a matter of hours. So it's different from, a platform like, say, AWS, where you can do literally anything from video game, multiplayer video game hosting to business applications on AWS, but you're not going to stand up an application probably in just a matter of hours on AWS. It's a much more on-rails experience when you're using ServiceNow, because they sell into the IT group. It's IT service management. They have that advantage of their customers are already the IT group, and they recognize the opportunity to build custom applications, and then they often do build custom applications that help them serve other use cases within their organization. But it's primarily a service request system. So, the types of applications that really are there in their wheelhouse are things where someone needs to request something, they need to provide some information, and then there's a potentially very complex back-end workflow that needs to be enabled for actually fulfilling that request, whether it be approvals that need to be approved and many work tasks that need to be divvied out to different groups. And eventually, there are, throughout that process, different notifications that are happening, or progress information being sent back to the user, and eventually the fulfillment of the task. This ServiceNow does a lot of things, but that's kind of one of the big things that they've always done and that they do really, really well.
And why do you think they've been so successful? Is it, they have been doing one thing very, very well, or, what's your thoughts on that? And where do you think things are going to be in sort of 5 years from now with ServiceNow?
I think a big part of their success has been the strength of the platform and the fact that folks find it easy to go in there, achieve the results that they want, which really means, they're able to gather the requirements from their customers, the IT organization or the facilities group, whoever it is, and then implement that and be able to iterate quickly and provide new functionality to their customers. So the platform is certainly a big part of what has made the company successful. they have an amazing sales team. They're able to really listen to their customers. It's always been a customer-centric organization, and so they certainly during my time there, the focus on customer relationships and customer success was a constant, and I don't think that's changed.
Awesome. And when we're looking at the next 5 years, what do you think the ecosystem is going to look like in the next 5 years?
What I see starting, I think, is ServiceNow has this platform, and it enables the opportunity for businesses to come in and provide solutions that integrate well. And so I think what you'll start to see over the next 5 years is the maturation of the ecosystem into being not just custom development that happens on the platform, but mature products. And you kind of have this not just a custom development platform, but really as the ecosystem matures, you have almost a cloud operating system where you can install software, and there are solutions available for any use case that you need, and they're good applications that were professionally developed, and at the same time bring all the benefits of being on the ServiceNow platform, where you have that ability to customize them, you have the reporting and analytics capabilities, and then of course then they're natively integrated because ServiceNow is a single platform. Everything they do is one platform. It's not just glued together disparate solutions. Everything runs on a single platform, and you have huge benefits in terms of how applications can integrate with one another as a result. And so to a certain extent, it's more of the same, but I do think a shift that I see starting and I expect to accelerate is just growth in the ecosystem in terms of professional software applications that are available to customers, and the growth of the application development ecosystem for ServiceNow.
So, again, taking a slightly different direction now. So obviously, as a staffing organization, orders get asked all the time by people at either executive level or individual contributors, kind of who are looking to make a move into the startup world. What are the differences? What should they prepare for? As someone with first-hand experience and has really kind of jumped into the startup world, what are some of your key learns and successes, and maybe even challenges that you've faced, and what are you seeing in that kind of small ecosystem at the moment?
So that's a great question. I think you have to be realistic about what you're trying to do and how many other people are trying to do the same thing, and then what are the resources that you're able to bring in to solve whatever problem you're trying to solve. It's great to be confident and believe in yourself, but you should also maybe understand that not everyone's going to be the next Zuckerberg just because they tried, right? So finding a niche is really, I think, a great piece of advice that I would give to someone who's thinking about starting an enterprise. I only know my little niche, which is enterprise SaaS, I guess. But find a niche, whether it's you're going to build an app for Shopify or a ServiceNow application, or you're going to really go after a vertical, a particular industry and serve that little group of people. It's very difficult to, if you think, hey, I'm going to be the next ServiceNow. That's my goal. Is I'm going to start out and immediately going to be the next ServiceNow. You're going to have to really be, I think, 10x better. This is something that someone I worked with used to say is you got to be 10x better in whatever you're trying to displace, and that can be really hard when you're competing against huge companies like Shopify or like ServiceNow or Salesforce. So instead, you got to start somewhere, find a niche, and kind of launch from there. Just focus on providing value, learning as much as you can as you go, and then being able to take that next step and that next step and that next step. That's what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I think
Yeah, let's hope so.
think we're doing okay,
And if you could go back in time and give some advice back to your younger self when you were starting DotWalk, is there any nuggets of advice that you'd want to give yourself?
Unsure. Yeah, I mean, what I really think about a lot, even more so than when I was starting DotWalk, is just when I was starting my career, especially with everything going on with COVID right now, and just kind of the disruption. I really feel for the young folks out there who are trying to just launch a career, coming out of college or whatever, and they're trying to get out there. When I started my career, I started right when the financial crisis was going on, really, and it was kind of a scary time, and I see that now too, is young folks are maybe struggling more so than they would have been in 2019 to get a career started because of what's going on. And so I guess my advice to them would be to just get out there and don't get discouraged. Find a way to get into an organization and start adding value as soon as possible. A lot of it is just about fear, right? But if you can find any opportunity to go in and then just work hard and provide as much value as you can and make yourself invaluable to whatever organization that you find yourself in, this too shall pass, right? And the future ultimately is always bright, I think, for people that are willing to work hard and learn as much as possible.
No, I agree, and I also had experience of that in the early stages of the financial crisis. I picked up my bags and moved to a foreign country to start a career, and it's those opportunities that make you sometimes. I think they're really, really good words of encouragement. I know when we've spoken previously, mentorship is something both you and I are really passionate about. Again, I don't want to sort of dictate too much, but would you mind sort of sharing either some stories there or, just your viewpoints on, again, maybe sticking on that narrative of kind of advice for people just starting their careers?
So, it's something I'm passionate about because I had really good mentors. I worked at ServiceNow very early. I got to work with a lot of the folks that both built that platform and built that business. And I was very, very lucky to have those people in my life. And it's something where I try, in my way, to my abilities to give back and try and help out the people that I find myself working with. But I think that, my advice to young people would be, first and foremost, recognize that mentors are really, really important, that you're not going to succeed in a vacuum, that you need to surround yourself with people. So find a mentor. Maybe second is recognize that the mentorship, it's a two-way street. They're not, the mentors aren't necessarily that you're going to find are not necessarily saying to themselves, hey, I'm going to just do this as charity work. Rather, you want to create a relationship with someone where you're helping them and they're helping you, and that's what, at least for me, worked well. Is a lot of my mentorships were with crotchety old guys who I was taking work off their plate, and then they were teaching me totally invaluable skills. So it's like
same.
It wasn't really there wasn't parity in relationship, if I'm being honest. I'm positive I got a lot more out of it than they did. But at the same time, they're not doing it just to necessarily give back. And if I had been a pain, they probably would have said, say, see you later, So, try and figure that out for yourself. Relationships are super important. Get out there and when it's safe to do so, again, have lunch with these guys, get to know them, and build relationships. So especially software developers, I think we tend to discount the importance of relationships. Relationships are super important, right? And I've been really lucky to just be able to learn from some of the best.
No, great, and it's definitely helped you on your journey, and it's an interesting point you mentioned because having spoke to a few people in a mentorship role, the mentor does at some points of some conversations become the mentee because they also learn, and I think what you've spoken about there is also valuable lessons for people not just starting their career, right? Always be looking for mentors throughout your career, and I know I've benefited from them hugely over the years, and it's amazing if you just ask how engaged people are willing to help and sort of maybe play a bit more of that role for you, and if you can take some work off their plate at the same time, I'm sure that helps. Jared, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate we've covered a lot here, and I'm sure there's enough for another podcast, even on just one of these topics. But is there anything else you'd like to sort of add before we close?
For anyone that's interested in learning more about DotWalk, you can go to our website, dotwalk.io. From there, you'll very easily be able to do a self-service demo where you can try out our software and check it out. If anyone wants to, reach out. I'm happy to speak with you, whether it be you're interested in DotWalk's solutions or you're just interested in having a conversation about the ServiceNow ecosystem or mentorship or any other topic. Reach out. I'm happy to help.
That's super kind of you, mate. Thank you very much. And Jared, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot, Ben.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.